Hey neighbor, here's some tricks to keep your watermelons happy because we're counting on a bumper crop this summer. Now these watermelons right here were transplanted, but you can direct seed your watermelons into the ground. The trick is soil temperature. So watermelons will germinate in the ground when you have a soil temperature between 68 and 95 degrees. Anything below 70 degrees soil temperature, you're going to have slow and not very good germination. But anything above about 75 or 77, your watermelons should germinate and pop up anywhere between 5 and 7 days. Now when direct seeding watermelons, I like to plant them a little bit thick, maybe about 6 to 8 inches apart, and you want to plant them 1 inch deep. Now we'll come back after they emerge and we'll thin out to about 1 plant to every 2 foot in row. Now our in-between row spacing is going to need to be anywhere between 4 and 6 feet. We normally like to plant our watermelons on well-drained soils, not in a bottom or an area that's going to stay wet. Watermelons don't like wet feet. We want to keep them in well-drained soils. Now the ideal soil for watermelons is a sandy loam soil. However, if you got clay type soils, you can grow watermelons in it. Just make sure you don't plant them down in the bottom where it will not drain. Watermelons are akin to cantaloupe, squash, and cucumbers, and rotation is really important to watermelons because they get diseases real bad, specifically soil diseases. So we want to make sure that we have a good rotation plan and that you're not planting watermelons back in the same spot. A good rotation is watermelons or cantaloupes or any squash or cucumbers on that plot every 4 to 5 years. So a 4 to 5 year rotation is best. And a soil pH of 6 to 6.5 is perfect. All right, so we're at the stage now. We need to really concentrate on keeping these watermelons happy. We want to make sure they got plenty of moisture, all the nutrients they need to grow a lot of vine. At this point, we really want to concentrate on growing vine because we're going to need that vine to protect those watermelons, protect them from the sun. Also, we're going to need a lot of vines so we have a nice, healthy plant. A good fertility schedule is going to keep these vines going and make plenty of foliage there. All right, so we know we need N, P, and K, so we use a balanced fertilizer on these watermelons, but we also need some micronutrients. Now the 3 micronutrients we really need to be concerned about with watermelons is sulfur, zinc, and boron. Now your watermelons are also going to need some additional nitrogen. So every other time that I fertilize, I just use a nitrogen source, not a balanced fertilizer. And the ones I recommend is chilean nitrate or sodium nitrate, or as your grandfather called it, bulldog soda, or calcium nitrate. I really prefer calcium nitrate best because, believe it or not, watermelons can also get blossom end rot. And we want to give this plant plenty of calcium so we don't have blossom end rot as you see in this picture right here. So when you're putting your nitrogen, whether you're using calcium nitrate or chilean nitrate on your watermelons there, make sure to not get any on the foliage because you can burn that foliage. That's the reason I prefer to inject it with the injector right into the root system. All right, so let's talk about those micronutrients that's really important to make a good watermelon crop. Zinc, sulfur, and boron. All those are included in this micro boost, which has the complete package there. And we like to put this in the injector there and inject it also. It makes it real quick and handy. Now, another way you could do that is boron is the same thing as that 20 mule borax that you see at your grocery store that people use as a laundry detergent. You can use that. That is a source of boron, but you have to be a little bit careful with burn with it. This product right here, you don't have to be concerned about burn at all. And as you know, we're big proponents of using drip irrigation. And drip irrigation is wonderful for watermelons because they vine up so much. We don't have to walk in there and tramp on our vines to move a sprinkler around. And we can inject all of our nutrients into that drip tape and put it exactly where it needs to be. All right, so let's talk about pollination because we got to have pollinators if we're going to make watermelons. You see that flower right there? Watermelons have male and female flowers. There's a male flower at every node and a female flower about every 7th node. Now these flowers only last for 1 day. After a day, these are gone and more come up. A bumblebee or a honeybee has to visit this flower somewhere around 7 times for it to be properly pollinated. Now, poor pollination can result in very poor fruit set or misshaped fruits as you see in this picture right here. So you got to have pollinators. We have honeybees, and you see this swollen lip right here? I got hit yesterday afternoon late right there on the lip there. So if you're going to have bees, you're going to have to be a little tough. Even with ideal conditions, it's not uncommon for watermelons to abort that flower. And believe it or not, boron, that micronutrient that's in that microboost area, has an effect on pollination and fruit set. All right, folks, plant those watermelons in well-drained soils. Make sure your soil temp is where it needs to be, above 75 degrees. We want to make sure that we got good fertility, we got a good pH, we got a good NPK, good balanced fertilizer. We got to have good micronutrient levels such as sulfur, zinc, and boron. And then we got to have good pollination. We'll have all those things, we keep those watermelons happy, we're going to make a bumper crop.